What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Nintendo in the courtroom is pretty much expected at this point, and now they're taking aim at a certain company that you may remember very well on the lead up to the Switch 2, specifically when it comes to accessories and, well, a certain unauthorized system that apparently was floating around out there, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about GTA 6 a bit more as it's been delayed, and we have some backstory there from a reliable source. And then, I can't believe we're going over this again, but it's very possible that Valve could be making the big game-breaking, the big internet-breaking announcement, and yeah, it ends with a 3. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or the link in the description down below. And we're going to start today actually with an event this weekend for Just Press Play. It's a game store that actually does quite a bit. And of course, for me, it's more about the used retro games, but they do a lot when it comes to trading cards, vinyls, collectibles, and I'll actually be at one of their grand openings this Saturday, May 10th. There's the invitation here, and it'll start at 10 a.m., running all the way until 9 p.m. This is in Lancaster, PA. I'll be there in the afternoon, hanging out, meet and greet, just kind of spending some time, and yes, I'll be looking around doing some shopping in that retro game section, but definitely come on out. Should be a lot of fun there. I do enjoy checking out these stores from time to time when I'm able to, because of course there's not that many around anymore, so it is a lot of fun to see stores like these actually open. So yeah, come on out, check it out this Saturday, May 10th. Again, I'll be there in the afternoon hanging out, looking for maybe some GameCube games, we'll see. Also, with the release of Until Dawn in the theaters, we had that PlayStation Studios intro that would happen before the movie would start, and people noticed that there was a certain character missing. You can see this is posted up. This was by Real Radic over on X, saying they forgot to mention they can confirm after seeing Until Dawn that Sackboy is not in the PlayStation Productions intro anymore. And they have the picture below is the 2023 version from Gran Turismo, and then the one that they quote tweeted there was just missing Sackboy. So, look, I mean, we had Sackboy's big adventure to kick off the generation, and that's kind of been it. Radio silence from that franchise ever since, and to be honest, it kind of feels like Astrobot sort of just slotted in there for the 3D platformer, and Astrobot obviously would represent the PlayStation brand, just because, I mean, look at Astrobot, look at the entire premise of the game when it comes to the PlayStation brand versus Sackboy. Yes, Sackboy is more storied, going back, like PS3 days, but Astrobot clearly has drawn a lot more attention, and even won Game of the Year, so to me, they're like full speed ahead with their 3D platformer with Astro, and unfortunately, it seems like there's not enough room there, I guess, for two with Sackboy, so it's been kind of pushed out of the picture there. Like, actually pushed out a picture there in the intro for PlayStation Studios. Oh, and we have news of another game key card for the Switch 2, which seems like it's going to be news for a bit now going up to launch, and this one's kind of expected, I feel like. You can see it over on Amazon. It is Star Wars Outlaws, and was anyone expecting Ubisoft to be like, all right, let's figure out how to get this thing on a 64 gig carton, put out more money for it? No, I mean, it's a $60 game, and we know Ubisoft, of course, is, they're already more and more into the digital side than I feel like most companies now, so it's not shocking that they would indeed ship out the game key card with probably a couple, I mean, maybe 100 megabyte card or something, just so of course it triggers the download. And look, Star Wars Outlaws is probably going to be a big game anyway on the Switch 2 when it's all said and done with patches and stuff. So in their mind, maybe they couldn't fit it on a 64 gig card. It's not like Ubisoft's the greatest when it comes to just optimization of file sizes in general. But at this time, whenever third parties announce games that you see on other platforms that are 20 or even 30 gigabytes, we'll say, in size, I just expect it to be a game key card. And then if it's not, you can be surprised. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo taking aim at a specific Switch 2 leaker. And that leaker is Genki, and not the Genki we'll source on Twitter X from time to time with interesting news, especially out of Japan. I will say when I first saw it, I was like, oh, what did Genki do here? But no, this has to do with the accessory manufacturer as they will work on not only Switch stuff, but they're like cell phone accessories and other things. But of course, the Switch 2, especially leading up to it to end 2024 and go into 2025 was super hot online, and they saw the opportunity to kind of jump out ahead. And unfortunately for them, they seem to have jumped a bit too far, because now Nintendo has moved to file actual proceedings in court, and doesn't look like they're going easy on them, and they've done quite a bit of homework, as you'd expect from Nintendo, again, in the courtroom, where they just absolutely love it there. Anyway, let's take a look. Here's the document itself, which you can check out as well. It's about 27 pages. I'll link down below in the sources. But for the most part, just kind of giving you some of the cliff notes here. The action itself is for trademark infringement, unfair competition, and false advertising. There was an interesting note, by the way, as they were, to start this entire thing, they were going over the series of events and pretty much building up Nintendo completely. Like, hey, look how incredible this brand is. Here's how hard we've worked to establish it. They even mentioned that hardware development for the Switch 2 began in 2019. So a bit of a timeline there in terms of the hardware itself. Now, they did claim that Genki began advertising that they had gained unauthorized access to the Switch 2, and I'm sure many of you remember those headlines, right? Especially when there was like kind of hearsay or just backroom talk at places like CES. They're like, hey, how did you get the measurements and stuff for these accessories? And it's kind of getting kicked around with someone were wondering if it was like kind of jokingly, which, you know, it probably was just talking smack in the back room and stuff about this. Like, oh, we were able to get a hold of a Switch 2 that made its way off the back of a truck, and that's how we're able to gain these measurements. That was definitely being said, like black market Switch 2s were coming up there for a while. Nintendo, though, says they never provided a Switch 2 console or technical specifications. So what they've done here is pretty much cornered them off into, hey, either they are lying about having a Switch 2 system, access to it to get the correct specifications, in which case they're false advertising that it's 100% compatible with the Switch 2 system, or they actually have a Switch 2 console that's unauthorized and it's unfair competition. Like, somehow they got this thing, and we're going after them for that. Genki also, they say, used Nintendo Switch branding in connection with marketing and promotion of their accessories. So Nintendo says they're not authorized partner for this, but they're still using the Switch 2 or the Switch branding and Nintendo branding while talking about a black market Switch 2. And when you go through the documents here, I mean, guys, they have screenshots and images from X of interactions from people at Genki. They have the CES website event. Remember, there was the event card that we had looked at, and it mentioned the Switch 2 stuff, and then it kind of was edited and removed, and they had all of that there. And they even had images of the Genki mock-ups that were being shown at some of these live events. And from what I can tell, they're looking for full injunction from Genki, which means they don't want them making any accessories for the Switch or the Switch 2, and they want a bunch of money. Mostly they mentioned money for just the entire legal process with attorneys, and then some sort of amount that's deemed correct by the court based on, they say, damages and other aspects to this when it comes to their brand being used and the unfair competition. Now, since this filing over the weekend, Genki did post up at least a response to it, saying, a note from the Genki team, you may have seen that Nintendo recently filed a lawsuit against us. We're taking it seriously and working with legal counsel to respond thoughtfully. What we can say is this: Genki has always been an independent company focused on building innovative gaming accessories for the company we love. We're proud of the work we've done, and we stand by the quality and originality of our products. While we can't comment in detail, we're continuing preparations to fulfill orders and showcase our newest products at PAX East this week. We're grateful for the overwhelming support we've received so far. We'll share more when we can, but for now, we're staying focused on doing what we do best: building gear for gamers, Team Genki. So we've talked about this a lot with Nintendo. It's like there's two companies you really don't want to mess with or fly too close to the sun with some of the actions that could get you in hot water. That's Take-Two and Nintendo. Both are very, very ruthless when it gets to the courtroom, and both of them are very willing to go to the courtroom immediately. Nintendo basically lives there at this point, okay? And when you see this kind of work, it's like, wow, they have a crack team that spends a lot of time putting this stuff together. And we've seen it time and time again, especially with the emulation and ROM scene, to where they're in like Discords getting messages trying to connect the dots and prove piracy as an example and link it to an emulator. And what happened? Those emulators just started going away. Nintendo, typically when they do move on a case like this, usually they move because they have very strong evidence and they feel like they can basically win out. And you know what? Looking at this, it doesn't look great for Genki, because even all of us who were following along, it's like, yeah, we were actually questioning. We're like, oh, okay, they're flying a little too close to the sun with this stuff. And eventually Nintendo will notice, and eventually, yeah, they're gonna come after you. And well, in this case, they've now filed an entire lawsuit, and we'll see how this plays out, but I'll say this, Genki, they got their work cut out for them. Next up, let's talk about GTA 6, as it has been delayed out of 2025, which is heartbreaking for the Grand Theft Auto fans out there who have been waiting since, well, 2013 for the next numbered entry. It's been a while. And now it looks like you're gonna be waiting just about another 13 months, as the new date is set for May 26, 2026. I did an entire video to close out the week. It was just massive news. And since then, we have had a bit more of a backstory from Jason Schreier around this, which you can see over on Blue Sky. And here he says, nobody I've talked to at Rockstar has believed fall 2025 was a real window for a very long time now. Too much work, not enough time, and what appears to be a real desire for management to avoid brutal crunch. GTA 6 slipping to 2026 has seemed inevitable for months, if not longer. Now, he goes on to mention that this is something that's been ongoing and that he's been following in different newsletters, specifically one that was in January about this. So it does seem like it's kind of been on the docket for a while. And the thing with Take-Two, though, is they were playing it up big time to investors to almost stall this announcement as long as possible, because you saw with their stock price, I mean, it dipped massively. It's down like 15% or something as soon as that announcement was made, which, yeah, GTA 6 is going to be a massive money. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable when the thing launches, sure. Probably, again, the biggest launch we've ever seen, I figure, in gaming history, and now even more so because, well, guess how much it's gonna be next year? We'll start at 80, and then we'll work our way up from there, okay? Look, there's gonna be, I'm sure, special editions and stuff, but in this case, as we're now seeing the industry move to $80 with Microsoft at this holiday, Nintendo already doing it with Mario Kart World, yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6 next year is assuredly gonna be $80. The $100 still on the table, though, I will say that. But in this case, them moving 13 months out, they say it's for polish and just making sure they get it right, which they can't get it wrong. If they do, it's going to be disastrous. Not only for them, but also a bit for the industry, because people will be asking, wow, took almost 12 and a half years then for this game to come out in this state. And it's my only concern is GTA 6 has now built up expectations that I don't know if are even possible. The game could come out and be a 10 out of 10, and I don't think it'd be enough almost. That's just kind of where we are with this legendary status for GTA 6. So I hope they spend the next 13 months continuing to polish and build on it, because that is going to be under the microscope times 20 at this point on release. But I guess we'll see next year. However, because it's now been pushed more than a year out, does make me wonder if ahead of this investors briefing that they have, actually next week, I believe, that maybe they'll have a trailer for GTA 6 to update things like their banner and a lot of their signage on their websites that still have the standard images and stuff in 2025. Seems like they are due for another trailer of some kind, since it's been almost a year and a half since the last one. So here's hoping with this delay, maybe they have something like that to kind of ease tensions currently. Next up, speaking of legendary releases, is it possible that Valve could be lining up a massive announcement this summer? And yes, it's for Half-Life 3, which has come up before, and that's because apparently it's been in its testing phase for a little while now. And in fact, currently, it might be to the point where it's playable all the way through. This we can see is posted up. This is over on Eurogamer, who says Half-Life 3 is not just in development, but it's now playable end-to-end. That's according to Valve insider Tyler McVicker, who says the eagerly anticipated sequel could be announced as early as this summer, Q3, with a possible release before the end of 2025, possibly winter Q4, saying, quote, HLX, which apparently is the code name for it, is being playtested so religiously and so widely that there are individuals who will just talk. I personally have a policy of avoiding any story-related questions or information whenever possible. So I currently have avoided all of them, but I've been offered it by people whom are trustworthy, and I know some of my contemporaries have been given it, so there is information out there about the plot. So that's fun, the potential to be spoiled for a story of a game that hasn't even been officially announced announced yet. And I will say, if Half-Life 3 gets revealed this summer, I mean, that's the biggest reveal of the summer or the year, I assume, then that would be massive. It's been forever, obviously, since Half-Life 2 is at like the 20th anniversary for the big celebration there. So that kind of puts into context, yeah, multiple decades for this. And again, as I mentioned with GTA 6, I do wonder if expectations for Half-Life 3 are just to a point where it's impossible to overcome. Like, what's the big twist, or the big, I don't want to say gimmick, but what's the big thing they're going to have for Half-Life 3, since Half-Life 2 is so physics-based, the gravity gun, there's all kinds of cool stuff you could do in that game. I'm curious what the big aha thing is, or big aha moment for Half-Life 3. And the thing with Valve, because they're private, they can do little projects in general without feeling the need to get them out at a certain time to appease investors. And look what happened to Take-Two. Valve really doesn't have that kind of pressure, so they can do something like a Steam Deck that's not necessarily just for fun, because yeah, they're looking to make money. It is a company, it is a business in the end of the day, but they don't have to meet certain quotas every quarter and then report them. So Half-Life 3 legitimately, sure, could be in playtest. It could have been in playtesting forever and it just never comes out. It does seem like, though, there is a lot of smoke right now. And of course, as people say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think this would be a really cool announcement at a place like Summer Game Fest. We've seen Jeff work with Valve multiple times in the past, so maybe he really does, like, the stars align and Jeff Keighley has one of the biggest announcements in gaming that we've had in, well, quite some time. So that would be really cool. And for Half-Life, all the big hardcore Half-Life fans out there, I hope they really have something cool up their sleeve at Valve for Half-Life 3 so it can deliver. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a tremendous amount of excitement and then an incredible amount of disappointment that happened in the span of about 6 or 7 hours. And this has to do with Chrono Trigger, specifically the potential for a remake that may have leaked out a bit early. This we can see is posted up by Gamatsu over on their Twitter X account, saying Yuji Ori let slip that a Chrono Trigger remake is in the works at Comic-Con today, according to multiple people who were in attendance. If anyone was there and has a recording of what Ori said, I'd appreciate your share. And I'm telling you guys, the internet absolutely exploded when this got out there, because it did sound like, oh wow, all this happening in Comic-Con at real time during a panel, and it just slipped out there that Chrono Trigger remake is in development at Square Enix. And it sounded like it was mentioned, oh, it's getting close. It's like, whoa, hold on. What is Chrono Trigger a remake? And we've already been over this before because it's been rumored. It's like, how would you want them to go about it? HD 2D or full on 3D, or reimagine like Final Fantasy VII and where that is right now? And the vast majority of people say that they want something that's as close to the original as possible. Just better visuals, sure, maybe some changes in terms of just quality of life stuff when it comes to even menu systems, or stylized it a bit. But for the most part, what's there on the Super Nintendo is like just about perfect. So don't mess with it too much. Don't do some weird like alternate realities and stuff like we're seeing right now with Final Fantasy VII. So while people were kicking it around and imagining what we could get, the disappointment came. We can see this posted right below it. This again from Gamatsu, saying footage from the event is out, and Ori himself did not actually say anything about a remake of Chrono Trigger, like at all. It was all the interpreter. Sorry to burst everyone's bubble. Wow, that interpreter is, they're going through it right now. You imagine being the person who is legitimately like the communication medium between the crowd and the person talking, and you're like, oh wow, you just said Chrono Trigger remake, and they didn't say that at all. Yeah, it's not a great moment there. And again, there was so much excitement. Square has something if they can actually do it. I have no idea what they're doing with Chrono Trigger Remake. I don't know if it's, or just Chrono Trigger in general. I don't know if there's a licensing issue somewhere in there. There's like music, I guess, or who knows at this point. Because at the very, very least, you port Chrono Trigger to the current systems, and people would spend, I mean, this would be $20 to $30 for it. If Square just put it on there and said, it's $40, that's it. A lot of people would be annoyed. They'd be like, that's really expensive. But it's a really good game, and it has trophies too. Okay, here you go. And then there's a physical copy? I'm gonna buy that too. That's how it would go with Chrono Trigger fans, or just even people in general. That's a game that would be pushed heavily to everyone. Like, you gotta try this game out if you've never played it before, right? And now it's more accessible. So that's the thing that is head scratching to me, and one of the reasons I feel like there's something else going on there, because it seems like a slam dunk release for, I don't want to say like no work, little work, less work than what you'd need for a remake or most of the other projects I'm sure that they have in development. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, how much do you expect the next generation systems, the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox, to cost when they release? So the leading amount was $700, but 800 plus, so it could be anything above 800, could be 1,000, was right behind it. 600 was there too, and then 3% of people say 500 or less. You know, I am thinking about the PlayStation 6 right now as being a more lateral move in terms of just raw GPU and just horsepower in terms of the hardware. Mark Cerny's kind of alluded to this, like, hey, we're sort of reaching the limits as to what just making the GPU bigger and doing more when it comes to rasterization from the GPU side. We're looking more towards artificial intelligence, like ways to upscale better, AI upscaling, PSSR, FSR, work with AMD around this when it comes to AI and having parts of the GPU or just cores be able to accelerate that more. I think that is the strategy. And I feel like that's the way they can keep costs from ballooning to $1,000 or more, is to be more of a finesse way to get there. And that does make me wonder if we are like done with legitimate hardware jumps completely. So, I don't know, I'm already kind of pulling back, lowering expectations of the PlayStation 6, and it's 2025. We should still be a few years off from that one, hopefully. And then we'll finish up with the comments of the day. We'll start with the members comment here. This is from Son Goku, says, wouldn't it be nice if PlayStation holds down on the price increase with systems, games, and accessories? Wishful thinking, huh? If only. Yeah, I think Sony is probably going to also raise the price. It's so weird. Going from the PS4 to the PS5 generation, Sony was like showed up there alongside of, I know, 2K and stuff, but they were there at the forefront as well. Like, it's $70 for games now. And people were really annoyed. There's a ton of backlash to them. And now people are like, oh wow, Sony's the budget option currently, after Microsoft took their Series X and moved it up to $600 or $730 for the 2 terabyte Galaxy Edition. Sony's sitting there like, yeah, we're the cheapest model, but for how long? I don't think it's gonna be very long. I think they're gonna hold out with whatever they have stockpiled and hope that the tariff situation or the uncertain economic time period is somewhat worked out. Eventually they're gonna move, and they're doing everything possible to not raise the prices in the US. But I feel like they can only hold out for so long, and then yes, they'll have a similar press release like what we just saw from Microsoft. And then we'll go to the comment of the day. This is from Justin, who says, my dude's sunburned. Yeah, I've been outside a lot more. Baseball or t-ball season is rolling along for the kids, and I've been getting outside more to just basically be able to do running outside as opposed to inside, because well, the winter here felt longer than usual. I don't know if that's me, but it's that situation of you spend so much time in the winter in the Northeast where temperatures are fluctuating constantly, but it gets super cold. And then summer happens. You're like, this is great. But then a month or two into summer, you're like, all right, I'm ready for the cold. And that cycle starts all over again. But yes, I've been outside a bit more. So I'm getting some color, and most of it's just red. And but that'll fade a bit. Then I'll be back to at least decent color on screen rather than the usual pale white gamer skin tone. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear more about the Switch 2 with its free upgrades that they'll have for current Switch games, as they did reveal all the ones that will be available. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.